All right, we are live. So, I'm going to work on this guy today. Some dry brushing. So, go little gunmetal. Well, yesterday at about 5 in the morning, when I wanted to do my first, do another broadcast / stream, lady called me and said she had a copperhead in her back porch. She wanted to go outside with her dogs and she couldn't because snake was out there. So instead of painting yesterday, I went over and picked up the snake from her, took it out, turned it loose, and it was way too early for me to get a video of it. You know, like, I guess my brain hadn't kicked in and didn't have enough coffee yet to realize I should grab a camera and go record some of that, you know. So, what I'm doing is getting all the legs highlighted, let this dark black seep in. It'll give it almost to the point where I hate people saying grimdark, but it'll give it this nice grimdark effect that you could touch up. I really like the contrast paints. They work out well for this, especially since I really can't, do like lots and lots of like super fine details. My hands start shaking, or I start holding my breath, which causes my hands to shake even more because, it's what you do. Well, weird people do anyway. So we'll give this a good brush up. Yeah. You can already see it coming out. The thing is with the chassis parts like this, you're not really focusing too much on all the fine details of it, because all of this is in shadow behind the armor plates that are out there in front for you to see. So places like here where these hydraulics are, I'll get the Necron compound, which is basically a dry brush chrome, and I'll put on there, and they'll be super bright. Whereas the rest of these will just be, dim, dirty metal. Like right there. See? Looks good. It's a good way to have it set. Go back through and get all these hoses retouched and done up. And hopefully these legs will be done by the time this video is over, which is great. Minus, of course, the details, because I'll sit here for 3 or 4 days and say, oh, look, I forgot to paint that. I need to paint that. I'm looking at different techniques now. I started with some stuff on these Death Guard, and I'm trying different stuff with the cloaks, different stuff with the little pustules, the way the hoses are, the little pimples on the hoses. I want to try to find a easier way to do what I'm doing, because I get frustrated a lot because I'm going back over and retouching up things. It's annoying. Makes you feel like you're not doing some stuff right, One thing I like to do on all of these guys are these, I like to paint these brass right here, and I like to paint these gold and silver. It's kind of a weird off color. I don't see much people doing that. They generally stick to one method. I'm just like, seen a couple military vehicles in my day, so I try to pick out, that would look like this. And that, I think, should look like that. That's where I get my color schemes from, my layouts, my positioning. You know, it's weird that I don't play this game because there's no one here that plays, and the rules are very complex and complicated, and I will 100% sure have issues remembering everything I'm supposed to be doing, at least for, you know, quite a few games until I get the memory down, the muscle memory for the memory, until I get that down. So that keeps me from socializing. Plus, I'm not exactly a nice person. I didn't recover well from leaving the army and becoming a civilian. And, you know, that carries into your personal life. It carries into your home life. You know, that takes over everything about you when you're getting out of the army. Everything that you are is going away. So coming to terms with that is very difficult. And it makes you less desirable as a friend because, you know, you're constantly doing severe things. In the army, you always had a manual. You know, there was always this is the rule, this is the standard, this is what you're supposed to do. What the hell did I do with that? You know, whereas you get out and you're in the civilian world and it's like, wow, man, that's a lot of freedom. I'm going to do all the stuff I wasn't allowed to do. So lots of people lose their minds because, you know, they just aren't used to being able to wear what they want when they want. They're not used to being able to wear their hair any way they want, let it grow. That's why everybody grows beards. Whether they keep them or not, you know, that depends on how much effort they want to put in them. But everybody tries to grow one. They realize that there's a lot involved in it and it's easier just to shave it. And that's the thing is I learned after the army wasn't all about, we need to control you. It's more, we need you to do something. And it's easier if you do it this way because everybody's doing it. And if you stop doing it or don't finish it, everybody knows how to pick up where you left off. That's kind of the deal. You know, you got the bullies and you got the egotists and everything else, but the army really wasn't bad. It was just try to do this and get by. You know, you got the social justice-y shit going on in there now. Going on in there now, and it's like, you know, the army isn't about making a place for you to work and be where you could feel great about yourself. That's not what the army is. The army isn't a place to go to feel good about what you do. You're going to, you know, be a soldier. Your job is to kill people. Literally. That's your job. You could church it up any way you want. But when you join the army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, it doesn't matter. You're going to be a soldier. And soldiers kill people. Not all of them. Not everybody that joins the army kills somebody, but everybody that joins the army trains to kill somebody. And if that's what you're going to do, you know, own it. That's what you do. You know, if, you know, like the new army commercial, it's ridiculous. I saw that thing where they compared it to the Russians, you know, the Russian propaganda ad for their military. And they compared the U.S. Army one where the girl talks about going to gay pride stuff with her lesbian moms and how the army made that okay. And it's like, you realize the whole purpose of that girl being in the army is not to talk about her lesbian moms. I mean, do you? I don't give a shit. But, you know, your job is to kill people. If you want to try to say, well, we don't kill people anymore in our army, okay, well, that's great. Just, you know, don't freak out when we get conquered here soon because, you know, our soldiers aren't being taught to kill anymore. They're being taught to, I don't know, whatever the heck it is they're being taught to do. So with that, these legs are dry brushed, ready to start going into details. Once the details are done, probably the next 30 minutes or so, because, you know, there's only a few things you really do on this. There's not a lot of colors on the leg chassis. But we will be putting that joker on this little tray. I went to a hobby shop, a place called Hobby Town USA up in Fort Worth, and they had fake throw up, fake vomit, and this is what it looked like. So that's what I went for. I went for the fake puke effect. Figure Papa Nurgle would appreciate that. All right. What we will do is we will start working on hoses. Here's our Nurgling from the other day. Got to get him finished. That little dude's annoying. Jabber, 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 jabber. That's all he does. We will go with red. Red's a nice contrasting color to all of this darkness. Yeah, I need to move my magnifying glass too. That ain't working. So put some red on these cables. And our thing. Sorry, hey, Dad. Sorry. Hey, Dad. Hey, Anton. Sorry, man. I'm rearranging my setup and I can't see my screen, so appreciate that. I am using a Panasonic AVC HD X06 is what the numbers on it say, but just a little camcorder. I figured if I was gonna get something, I would need something I could give my son, because he likes to go around and record stuff. He likes to record the turtles and the geese and things we have out here and the deer, playing with them. Like, I've got probably 4 or 5 hours of video that he wants me to put on this YouTube channel for him. But it's like, man, you realize I got to sit there and download and switch and all of that. Plus, I'm taking care of the grandbaby. So it's, this YouTube thing is a serious part-time deal for me. Plus, I'm not exactly technologically proficient. Actually, I rephrase that. I am proficient in technology. I am not able to repair, modify, or enhance technology in any way, but I can push the buttons if somebody tells me what I'm supposed to do. I have some buddies teaching me how to code, I guess it is. They're teaching me the basics of it, and I feel really bad because I could tell their frustration. They are not so good with it. But old dogs and new tricks, right? But anyway, I'll get back to the Army thing. It's, I tell guys there's a couple different types of people in the Army. I mean, you could stereotype, but types of people in the Army are the people that, believe like I did wholeheartedly. This is your world. This is what you do. This is everything you are needs to be this. And that's cool, but it makes it where people really don't want to hang out with you because you're a very extreme, very intense person, and you see things in black and white. There's no gray areas. Don't have time for emotions and feelings because that doesn't help get the mission accomplished, So you lose out on things. You lose out on your humanity to a degree at some point, and people notice that. Makes your relationships suffer. So, but I agree with you 100%. Clearance diver for the Navy. It's funny, Dad. I'm gonna send you some stuff. The 12th or Thursday, Friday, Saturday next week. I'm going fishing with a Special Forces rescue diver. He's a game warden up in Texas here, and he's hosting a fishing event for us. I'm going to broadcast from there a couple times and let you guys check that out. You ever make it over here to the States there, Dad, you know, come on down and hang out, dude. I'll take you and show you some cool stuff and introduce you to some cool people. So there we go. See, there's not very many cables on here. I mean, there's a lot of details, but the details are a couple of these, couple of those, thousands of little dots. That's why it's so easy to hit this with some contrast paint, and you get that, and this looks way better. Sorry, this looks way better than the shading that you do with if you just spray this with lead belcher and then you put Nuln Oil or Agrax Earthshade on it. That contrast paint just comes out way better after you dry brush it. So, yeah, man. What? You can't go further than... See, I got a buddy in Canada, and I talk to him all the time, and he says the same thing, brother. He's like, yeah, here's a video of me going to work, and police are pulling people over to make sure they're not just going and doing stuff. And I'm like, man, try that here in Texas, and someone's going to say, why are you pulling me over? Well, I want to know what you're doing. Nah, and they're going to drive off. And, you know, if a cop ain't got probable cause in the United States, that's a thing. You just can't pull somebody over. Oh, yeah, man. Dude, my bucket list is to go to Australia, but if I were to try to go to the grocery store here and somebody said, let me see your ID, nah, you got one of two options. You can either try to force me to show it to you, and that's not going to go well, or you can just accept the fact that I'm going to do me and you need to do you, and I don't need to explain to you why I'm doing me. I guess that's the ego of America, the ego of colonial America. I don't know what currently we're in the bad parts of, but that is definitely the problem with America. We tend to think we're better than everybody else, and the sad part is, for the most part, we are. That's why everybody wants to come here, until they get here and they realize that it's a sham, that it's nothing more than politics and whichever social justice trend is currently the best on Twitter. It's pretty weird here, man. They tried that no shopping without ID up in some places, and every now and then on YouTube I'll catch videos of people that they'll go to like Trader Joe's website and they'll say, okay, this is exactly how much these items cost, this is exactly how much they charge for tax, blah 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 blah. So they run into the store while people are screaming at them. They grab the items they want, run over, show it to the cashier, and the cashier's like, well, we're not cashing you out without a mask on. So they'll just say, okay, well, we've got this, and this, and this is how much it costs. They'll leave the money and walk out of the store. And, what are you going to do? Yeah. I've been arguing and fighting with my wife a lot because I sit up here. I don't leave my house. So I'm kind of locked down, locked myself down. So I really don't have much room to complain because I don't go nowhere very often. But yeah, man, it is depressing. It is depressing. That's good stuff, man. My grandfather was one of the men that stormed the beaches of Omaha Beach in Normandy. And on the 40th anniversary of that event, I was in basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, when my company did what's called a live fire range, where you run through the mud and stuff and they shoot the live bullets 50-60 feet above your head, but you think it's like inches. So the live fire range we did was Omaha Beach, was what it was called. So in some kind of weird way, I too stormed Omaha Beach just like my grandfather did. That gives me a weird sense of pride, weird sense of pride. My father was an Air Force guy for 24 years. My grandfather, of course, he was a Marine. My grandfather on my mother's side, boy, you want to hear some crazy shit stuff? Well, it's too late. I've already said the S word a few times, and I'm not monetized, so I guess that don't matter. I'm just trying to be family friendly. But I tell you, it's weird. The guy, my grandfather, his name was this and this, right? Ed Sharrow, I believe. And then his best friend was named Edward Nichols. Or no, his name was Ed Sharrow, and his buddy's name was Harold Nichols. So my grandfather, being the scumbag that he was, when that guy died, my grandfather kept signing for his paychecks somehow. And basically, when he was done over in Europe and came back to America, instead of going to Tennessee, he got the ticket to where the Nichols guy came from. And my grandfather went to Texas and changed his name to Edward Harold Nichols. And, left his family, left everything. Weird. Just ditched him, said, nah, I'm out. I'm not going to go back to Tennessee. I'm going to go back to Texas. So, weird thing is, though, is I didn't hear any of this from my family. I got it because when I got out of the Army, oh God, I can't remember what they're called now. It's the thing where you trace your heritage and you get the little leaf things. I guess that's your notification. You get a leaf if you're related to a guy in the family tree. So I did some research, and holy crap, what I found out. My family, and this is weird, were registered as one of four white slaves on a plantation in Kentucky. Either they owned them or they were the white slaves. But I don't know. But the plantation that my family traces back to but gets muddy is a place in Kentucky with, I think it was 8 black slaves and 4 white slaves. So, yeah, that's crazy stuff. But, the thing is when you're doing those, it tends to take the average. Like one of the great grandparents on my mother's side was named Dermot, and her mom, they say, well, it was kind of similar to Dearmon, and they may have changed the spelling, but this is the Dearmon, and we're going to go ahead and throw a leaf. So it's like, we called that in the Army, we called that a swag. It's a scientific wild ass guess. That's what a swag is, and that's what they do. They swag. Yeah, man, we used to, yeah. Well, we would take the soldiers out and do live fire rounds. We would go by the AHA or the ASPs where units that were doing ranges would be turning in their ammo, and they would have partially open crates and boxes. So what we would do is we would say, hey, we're going to go do this range. If you have whatever you have that's tracer rounds that you don't want to turn in as live, because turning in live ammo to an ASP is ridiculously bureaucratically complicated. So you try to shoot up anything that gets the seal broken, you shoot that crap. You know what I'm saying? And you can't waste it. So what you do is you say, hey, this unit has, 20,000 tracer rounds up here on this pallet getting ready to turn in that they've cracked open. Let's call this guy and we'll say, hey, we're going to take our soldiers out here and do nighttime live fire training. You want to bring some ammo and bring your guys out? And, that's how you get everybody to kind of contribute to the collective training effort. And as long as one guy takes responsibility for it, does the safety, arranges, everything that needs to be arranged, nobody really cares what you do as long as training is effective and efficient. Doesn't necessarily have to be cheap. It just has to be efficient for what you're spending on it. Once you get up into the higher ranks in the military, you start learning that stuff, and all the things that you did as a private and you didn't like, you're like, man, I hated this crap when I was a private. Now look at me forcing these guys to do it, smiling about what a good job I'm doing. You know, just every now and then you get lost and you have an epiphany of, holy crap, I'm the guy I used to hate. I need to stop doing this. And then you try to change your leadership style. But yeah, I hear you, dude. You know, I don't show the camera, but every now and then I'll get close enough and you could see my chiseled physique that's chiseled in the shape of a beer barrel or a whiskey barrel, a drum of some sort. Yeah. I'm more circular than I am straight these days, but that's okay because, you know, let's see. Where is the Necron compound? Every now and then I'll arrange my paints. I'll say, hey, look, I'm going to organize this. Yeah, it lasts a grand total of about 3 days. All right, Necron compound dry. This is supposed to be a dry brush, you know, like a effect brush. But I like using it because it's very, very bright. I like using it on these parts of these struts that would be working all the time, that would be going up and down, pistoning, if you will. So, I can't use this thing. So they would be constantly getting cleaned by these buffers and these seals. So those always have to be super bright to me because that was what I looked for when I was a soldier, when I was an NCO and I was going through the motor pool and you were supposed to wash your vehicles after a range or wash them after training of some sort. They might not have got dirty, but you know, there's certain things like this. If it's sitting there and you walk by and you're like, that's supposed to be shiny. Why isn't that shiny? That means something else is wrong. If they're not taking the effort to make the shiny parts shiny, what else aren't they doing? You know, that's the kind of attitude that leads you into having relationship issues with your wife and kids because, you know, you're so used to being in that mode that it just takes away every other aspect of your humanity, if you will. Might make you a damn fine soldier, but it makes you less of a man. Yeah, the 6-pack rack. My rack is completely full and stacked. There is no space in my 6-pack rack left. No, there's people that do those. I know what you're talking about. Like, I went and bought an airbrush and I got a bunch of testers paints, and I never got around to even trying it. I don't know, man. If it starts to complicate things or starts to complicate my cleanup, I generally ain't going to do it because then it becomes a chore and it's not a fun hobby. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Plus, you know, it's like I got a brain injury from getting blown up, so I'm not going to ride that trail anymore. But people say, hey, why? I just told you how to do this. How do you not know how to do this? It's like, man, I don't even remember your name right now. You know, I'm sitting here trying to figure out who the hell I'm talking to, not what you're saying. So, but once it comes back to me, then, you know, hey, good to go. But there's a while where I'm like, man, I just don't even know if you're real. Yeah, I got my problem is when I get into a hobby like this, I find it's a rabbit hole. I just keep going down and down and down. And I got that way with my son, trying to get him into RC cars because, you know, I was never around him when I was in the Army. So I was like, man, I need to find something my son likes to do. Let's go to the tracks this place because, you know, their headquarters is right up there in Fort Worth and they make some awesome RC cars. So I went and spent about $1,000 on RC cars and we don't ever drive them anymore. It's horrible. But I wanted to take one of those RC cars and make an Ultramarines shell. I even have a buddy that owns a business up in Dallas that does wraps on vehicles, puts graphics on them and stuff. And he said he would turn my pickup truck into a Space Marine vehicle, put like the Aquila on the front, all that stuff. Yeah, you know, with my thing, my wife just hates the fact that I have socks because, you know, I can't bend over anymore. My back, my spine's all fused. So you know, I don't even wear socks. They're a pain in the butt to put on. If I got to go to a store and buy shoes, I'll put on socks. If I got to go to a store and walk around for an extended period of time, then I'll put on socks because, you know, feet will start stinking. But yeah, my wife hates the fact that I have socks, but I buy all the same thing. Yeah, the guy's business is called Skins, SKINZ LLC there in Dallas, Texas. This guy does he doesn't do them. The guy Kevin, he's just rich. He's just a rich guy. He knows a bunch of rich people. He owns a bunch of businesses, and basically all of his homies that buy these super expensive Italian pasta rocket cars bring them to him, and he'll put wraps on Lamborghinis, BMWs, Mercedes. You know, there's a lot of really expensive cars in his warehouse. And the funny thing is his warehouse is like literally right in the middle of downtown Dallas. Like places where they say it doesn't matter who you are. You don't need to be there after dark. You know what I mean? It ain't racial. It ain't it ain't anything. It's just that's where bad people are, and bad people do bad things all the time. So let's see. I'm not going to do this part because I keep grabbing that to hold it while I paint. Once I get the legs down here done where I can turn and look, you know, once I get all those details squared away, I'll glue this to the platform, and then I'll work on this whole upper area. So yeah, but these are basically done. I can go ahead and they're going to use touch-ups here and there. All these places that I did red, I'll put another coat of red on those next time because we're at 30 minutes. So I'll put another coat of red on those next time, and those will be done. I'll give them a quick highlight with some Wild Rider red or some Fire Dragon Bright. Hit those edges, and they'll pop out better. The cables will hit with a little bit of German gray, and then we'll go right over the top with Dawnstone. That'll give the second effects. I'll go ahead and do one just for the giggles. So, by the way, I will say it again. If you are painting and you are not using a wet palette, you're wasting your paints, and you're limiting yourself greatly. I did not believe it, but I listened to a friend and I tried, and this is amazing. I know Anton, you see his hands where, you know, his hands will have all the marks where he's trying to get just the right amount of paint on there or get the right amount of moisture in there. But if you have a good wet palette set up, I ordered mine from the guy Squidmar Miniatures. I ordered my wet palette off of him, what he orders. So you could do this, get you a nice little color. And just go on the outside edge. Just like that. Because when you're looking at this thing, most of the time, even if I was playing, people wouldn't be really down there looking at it all up close. They're just going to look at it in passing or look at it as they walk around it. So you're going to want your eye candy to catch those. You know, you ain't even got to worry about making it solid. Well, it depends. It depends on the way you load the brush or your consistency. It's like my handshake. I don't think I've said that at all, ever. But, since my hands shake, I have a horrible time with getting paint everywhere and having a lot of splatter. Like, this guy's a perfect example. It's hard to see, but right here, let me zoom this guy in. Right here, you could see where the red cloth is there. And I went up onto the leg right here, and I've already patched it and colored it. You can't really see it with the camera, but I know it's there, so I know to look. Oh, God, there we go. You can't really see it because I know it's there, so I know what to look for. I know there's a tone change right here. And right there, you could just see where the red comes in right here on the leg. That's not a big deal right there. But, this guy I wanted to put together and paint because people say, you should put the whole thing together and paint it. So I'm going to do it. Don't like doing it, but this guy I put together. And if I want to get in there up on these lenses and this little, apparently this guy has a little mouth growing out of the side of his head. And if I want to get in there and get those teeth and lips around that other mouth and the eyeball, I have to be really careful about how much paint I have, how my hands are shaking. I put the brush down, take a few deep breaths, grab it real quick, try not to hold my breath. Somebody told me, what do you guys call pickup trucks there in Australia? Bunkies or something like that? Anyway, someone's telling me that y'all have utes. Yeah, utes, right? That's the correct term, utes. I subscribe to Aussie Man Reviews. That guy makes me just listen to that dude makes me smile, But yeah, I heard utes from him. And I always wonder, I'm like, man, Australia's like, here goes my lack of education. Australia's like, the size of Texas, right? Nah. Like 4 Texases fit in Australia, and it takes 12 hours driving straight through to get across Texas. So once I came to the realization of, exactly how big Australia really is, it's like, I understand now why you guys don't just get in your ute, drive across the outback, and go from Perth to Brisbane or Sydney to Perth. Yeah, it's across the country, but what? It's only, it ain't that far. It's all the way across America. Yeah. The largest drive I ever did, I did in the Army when I graduated. Let's see, where was that place at? Fort Eustis, Virginia. Me and this guy, Dave Mapes. We were both stationed at Fort Hood, Texas after that. So we drove from Fort Eustis, Virginia to Fort Hood, Texas, straight through. 23 hours, nonstop. We were zombies when that trip was done. That was horrible. Hey, Henry Ford, make me a car I can get to church and the chickens to market so I don't have to drive twice on Sunday. That's a good, I like it. So what I'm doing now is I'm going for, there's this guy, Underdog Painting. He, turn this a little bit. He's got a Death Guard army that's just amazing, his colors. So I am going to steal his color scheme. And it's got this nice cream color to it. So what I have to do is, if I'm going to make these bones stand out against that cream color scheme, I've got to change their tone before I shade them. And that's what this hobby is all about. It's, my buddy John is like, man, you're good. It's like, no, I'm really not that good. I just understand how to use the shade. I understand how to address the color wheel, if you will. Like a lot of people say, Jesus, 60 hours from east to western Australia. Man. I always wanted to go there, but you know, I can't fight no more. I'm old. I can't fight. I can't fight a dingo if it tries to take my baby. You know, in Australia, everything's trying to kill you. So I even hear the land tries to kill you every couple of years. The country just goes, you know what? We're burning it all down. Everything gets set on fire. You guys had some hellacious wildfires recently, but you know, I was tell people, man, I've seen some places. You know, I've been down to Honduras, been to Panama, you know, been down to the Sinai, been to Iraq, been to Afghanistan. I've been to Bosnia, Macedonia, Albania, Fyrom, former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. I've been to Turkey. And I drove in a, oh yeah, I live on a river, so I don't ever have water shortages. I rode a boat from the Port of Durrës in Tirana, Albania. I got on a ship, and I rode that ship over to Brindisi, Italy, where we sat at Brindisi for 3 days, and then the ship left, and we drove through the Mediterranean all the way around to Bremerhaven, Germany. And I was escorting ammunition, basically. So, but I knew a guy, and I got to be one of the people on that boat. So basically, I got my own very first cruise, and I will never, ever, 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 ever get on one of those again. That will never happen. Morning, daughter. Ever, ever, ever. The whole you can't leave. And it's not that, you know, you can't leave, because you can always just say, you know, screw this, I'm jumping over and I'm going to swim. But, you know, when you're that high above the water, because, you know, you're like 60, 80 feet above the ocean when you're on one of those big ships. So once you get past the dirty coastal water and you get out there towards the blue water or the green water in the case of most of the Med up there, you could see really far down, and you see a lot of stuff that you would not normally know is there. And now that I've seen those things, I don't go in the ocean no more. I don't swim in it. I don't play in it. I'll go fish in it, but I ain't never getting in it. That ain't never happening, because everything there is trying to eat, and you are food when you get in that water, whether you want to admit it or not. You go to the beach, you're food, man. Shark just decides he's going to get you. You're got. You ain't getting away from him. That ain't happening. Those are millions of years of evolution to catch people and critters in the water. You ain't fighting off a shark. You know, I saw an Australian surfer that fought off a shark, but that's because the shark was trying to eat his surfboard and not him.
Yeah, they mistake surfboards for seals.
I don't think there's a mistake for a seal. I think it's that looks like something I want to eat, and I'm going to eat it. You know, you can church it up any way you want, but yeah, Animal Planet can try to make animals out to be the victims and everything. But let's face it, they're out to kill people. They're out to kill everything and eat it. You know, you guys got lots of sharks. Like I watch, basically anytime I see something on tiger sharks or, you know, dangerous sharks, it's either South Africa sealed island or it's out in Australia. You know, a gill shark. Gill sharks are huge, aren't they? Gill sharks are ginormous. They're big. They're big fish, right? I went with my brother last year and got a bunch of tuna, and I watched an 18-foot shark bite a 6-foot tuna that they were yanking in the boat. Literally came right at the water and bit it, and this giant foam blood thing happened. And yeah, man, that only reinforces my I don't need to be there attitude. Yeah, gill sharks are pretty monstrous. So I'm going to go ahead, and we're at 44, 45. I'm going to go ahead and cut the feed and say thanks to y'all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you hanging out with me there, Dad. It's probably late for you there, but it's early for me here. So eventually I'll do an evening show where I could sit down and have a brew with you while we talk. All right, y'all. Take it easy. And remember, the Emperor protects, but only if you let him. All right. God bless you too, there, Dad. Be safe down there, brother.